Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome, everybody. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, enjoying yourselves in this nice rainy Saturday. So, I'm not going to make this live stream very long. Inshallah, I'll just try to answer your questions. Then I've got some marking to finish off, inshallah. Not marking to finish, I've actually finished all my marking. I just need to tally up the numbers. That's another headache. So, alhamdulillah, eventually I managed to finish all the marking. Had about how many papers? Maybe over 130 maybe papers, 120 papers. Right. If a person listens to riba, he has to apologize to the one being back behind. But if you tell the person that someone did a riba of them, they might ask you who it was, which can make it worse. So what's the question, my brother? Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. Assalamu alaikum ibi ahlan wa sahlan. Wa alaikum assalam Zishan. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome guys. So next week, inshallah, I'll try to do live stream next week, inshallah, and the week after, as I will be abroad. So I will see if I can do the live stream. The connection is good, inshallah. Timings are not going to be the same, most likely. It's probably going to be a different time. Yeah, maybe a few hours earlier. Ahim Mubarak, ahlan wa sahlan, wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Muhammad Mullah, ahlan wa sahlan. I'm very good. Thank you very much. How are the people of Blackburn? What's the latest over there? Did you enjoy the full day of rain? A full day of rain today, mashallah. This tea is excellent, you know. This is a tea I got from Turkey. I don't know what it's got in there. It's got some crazy things in there. Lemon in there, and it's got mint in there, and it's got some other things in there as well. Really nice. All right, so let's go to Curious Cat. Then let's check out some Curious Cat questions. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying on Curious Cat. Okay, can you provide a link or a video or something that goes into detail about Tawheed and or Shirk? I just attended a discussion at my masjid about the subject and didn't have time to ask my question because others were asking theirs and because of the time constraints to me. It is still unclear from what I heard if believed that certain things are as means of attaining Allah's bounty. For example, I ask Allah for wealth and I know that only Allah is the provider and only He can bestow me with wealth. But at the same time, I know that a job is a means of attaining wealth, but that doesn't mean that it's shirk, does it? I'm not familiar with any video, but if I do come across one, I will forward it. No, that will not come under shirk. Yeah, so remember guys, shirk basically is where a person believes that someone else has a power that is unique to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So look, Allah is unique. There is no one like Allah. And Allah gives creation abilities. Like He's given humans ability to walk, to hear, to see. There are limited abilities there. As long as you believe, you know that these limited abilities are not equal to Allah's abilities, then you're not doing shirk. Yeah, once you believe that a rock has the same power as Allah in regards to strength or in regards to getting into Jannah, that's shirk, guys. And the same thing with human beings. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. A few times I prayed Jummah at different mosques where they pray 2 fard straight after khutbah. My local mosque pray 4 sunnah after khutbah and give time for that before fard salah. What do I do in this case? I was confused whether I pray 2 fard and then make up the 4 sunnah. You can pray 2 or 4 is better if you have time. You don't need to make up the 4 afterwards. Next question. Do we have to shave our privates every 40 nights, or can we trim it with the scissors? Yes, you can trim it too. Assalamu alaikum. If a person becomes Hafiz but at the end of his life forgets the majority, when he is raised on the day of Qiyamah, will he be asked to recite what he knew at the time of death? Wassalam. I haven't come across any narration regarding this. But if a person didn't deliberately intend to forget the Quran and discard it, then it's hoped that they will be resurrected with the Hafiz of Quran. Okay. Is it true that the Anbiya do not decompose in the grave? Yes. If it is so, can we not see the Prophet's body and prove Islam that way? Why haven't any of the Anbiya's body been found? So the thing is, we only know where the body of one Prophet is, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we only know. And out of respect, we do not exhume the body, right? It's disrespectful to exhume the body. So that's why we don't do it. Now, the body is not being eaten by the earth. It does not mean that someone is a prophet. Shaheed's bodies are not going to be eaten by prophets. And also, there's many non-Muslims as well whose bodies, it's a phenomenon found in Christianity as well, that certain bodies have been buried for years, and they were dug up or a flood occurred, and the bodies came out and they were like fresh as though they just died. So bodies not decomposing is a natural phenomena that can happen. But for the prophets, Allah has a unique status for them. How do you calculate the Qibla when praying on the moon? I have no idea. It's a good question. I guess you'd probably face towards the earth. If you can, that is. If you know where the earth is. So how do you apologize to the person that you listen to? So in that case, you wouldn't apologize. You would just ask Allah to forgive you and hope that on the day of judgment, that person doesn't hold you accountable. Wa alaikum assalam. Umar, ahlan wa sahlan. If they might ask you who it was. Yeah. I'm very well, thank you very much. Went to a trampoline park today. The fire alarm went off and I had to stand in the rain and cold. Subhanallah. Qadr, the qadr of Allah. MashaAllah, the qadr of Allah. Are Ibadis considered as Muslims? Yes. What are their fundamental? They're basically Mu'tazila. They're a branch of Mu'tazila there. So they have fundamental beliefs that the Mu'tazila used to hold. Salam. Is the end doesn't justify the means an Islamic principle? It could be, depending on what situation it is. Yeah. So not all the time, but maybe in certain situations, it can possibly be. Where a person, for example, like you say to someone, well, doing this just because it's going to lead to this, it doesn't mean it's halal. Yeah, that could be a situation, but not all the time. Is the 40 hadith by Imam Nawawi good for a student who wants to learn hadith? Of course, definitely. I would definitely encourage. And Riyadh al-Salihin as well, which is a very good book. Atiyu wa alaikum assalam, ahlan wa sahlan. If one asks the dead for Jannah with the intention that decreased makes dua on your behalf, would this be shirk? No, it wouldn't be shirk, but this is a dubious area. This is called istighatha. This is the area of istighatha. And the reason I'm saying it's dubious because if it was something that was a strong practice in Islam, the Sahaba, there'd be many narrations from the Sahaba to do this. but we don't have from the Sahaba these narrations. Like Sahaba would clearly, obviously, they'll be doing this firsthand, but we don't get this. There's few narrations here and there, and even though there's kalam in some of those narrations, but we don't have. That's why it's something best to avoid. Sorry about the moon question. I have no intention. Don't worry, I have intention of going. Mufti, is there any way I can see a general tabaqat of the Sahaba and the Ahnaf, looking to know more Sahabis and all the Hanafi scholars and works? Of course. So there are many books of tabaqat of Sahaba. There is a book called Al-Isaba by Imam Ibn Hajar, very good book. And for Hanafis, there's many books that have been written. If you just go on Google and you type in Tabaqat al-Hanafiya, you'll find many works on that. Yeah, the longest work that I found is by a scholar in Bangladesh. His name is I think it's Maulana Lutfur Rahman or something like that. Aren't ibadis from the Khawarij like a software? Mu'tazila, yeah, Mu'tazila. Wa alaikum assalam, Ihsan. You're live back to back. Are there any references that clearly show us that personal du'as said out loud are better than those said internally? I've struggled with doing du'as out loud and more. So generally du'as should only be done quietly, unless it's common narrations that the Prophet ﷺ used to do aloud. That's generally the rule, Imam Abu Hanifa's rule. Yeah, ud'u rabbakum tadarru'an wa khufyatan. Call your Lord quietly and humbly. As-Sami al-Alim would be allowed to do them internally as well, that they'd be heard, but it's preferred doing them out loud. Therefore, yeah. So internally would be like you just say, you utter it on your tongue, and then you ask Allah. You don't do it aloud in the sense that everyone has to hear. Conscious and don't know whether doing them internally only for the reason better focus intentionally could be disliked. Hope you could follow me. Yeah. So generally, du'as. If you look in the Quran, du'as were uttered with the tongue. So just saying a du'a in your heart, in your head, that is not technically considered to be a du'a, because a request has to be something which is uttered. That's what the request is. That's generally what it is. But it's not to say that something that you wish for in your heart cannot come true. On the day of judgment, our bad deeds and good deeds will be weighed. If we repented for sin, will the sin still be weighed on our bad deeds? Then it'll be forgiven. It's wiped out. Ahmadu alaikum assalam. The end doesn't justify the means in Islamic. So yes and no. Okay. Wa alaikum assalam. How should one dispose of good luck charms, amulets, potions? Oh, sounds like Harry Potter. Should we break them into pieces, throw them away, burn them? Yeah. Wassalam. Throw them away. Yeah. If they have ayats in them, then they should be burned and disposed of. So is having a short back and sides skin fade haram? No. Alaikum assalam. What and how to make most out of Masjid al-Aqsa trip from when you visit, and what's the dominant position on the opinion of praying on the plane? Assalam. I would say try to stay around and in the masjid doing ibadah. That's the best way to kind of benefit from. And you can also read up about the history of the masjid too. Yes, you can pray on a plane. You can pray on a plane. Do we have to do sujood sahu if we say Allahu Akbar quietly for some of the prayer, or even only once an accident, do we have to say sujood sahwi if we say Allahu Akbar quietly for some of the prayer, or even only once accidentally? We sit down after the third rakat in a prayer with 4 rakats like Dhuhr, and someone corrects us by saying Subhanallah. Salam. So number 1, no need for sajda sahu. Number 2, yes, you need to do sajda sahu. Okay, if someone has missed the 4 rakat sunnah for Zuhr Salah before the Jama'ah, should he make them up after the Salam? Both are fine to do. I pray them after the sunnah, after the 2 sunnah. Yeah, both positions are fine to the Hanafi school. Okay, so to summarize, you'd recommend that one should try to utter one's du'as, even the desperate ones, and not to say them in one's heart. That's right. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum AH. Anwar al-Bayan, is this an easy to understand tafsir? I assume you're talking about the Urdu version. Also, do you know any healing or cures for mouth ulcers? I have no idea if I'm of cures. If you do know any cures, please let me know as well. Anwar Bayan, the Urdu one, is a very easy to follow book. Yeah, very easy to follow. I don't know if it's been translated into English. The thing is, have a go at reading it. So this is general advice to everyone. If you are unsure about a book, what I would say is just have a go at reading it, inshallah. Why does Quduri differ from works like Nur al-Idah and Qul Aqs in Salah, except the Fara'id Sunnah or Sunnah Mu'akkada? So some of the scholars have said that Quduri is using a specific, because Imam Quduri was in the 400s and Nur al-Idah came in you can almost say like 800 years later. What happens basically is that the early definitions that were used sometimes evolve over time. So in the early definitions, maybe sometimes the scholars, when they said Sunnah, they mean it was established through the Sunnah, i.e. not in the Quran. That's generally what Sahib al-Hidayah says in others say. Purple Plants, wa alaikum assalam. In UK, is it permissible to buy national insurance credits to increase one's state pension when they retire? You buy NI credits when you haven't paid enough years. You know, Mufti Faraz Adam, I think he's discussed this. He's written an article on this. Check that out. Check out what he says, and let me know as well. Good question this is. I mean, I don't exactly know how the national insurance credits actually work. Like, what do they go towards? What is it? Is it going towards the pension? Is it going towards a type of insurance scheme where there's riba involved? So I'm not too sure about that. Barakallah Veek, you're welcome. AH, no English, illuminating discourses of the Quran. Okay, it's been translated. I see. Yeah, then have a go read it. Go. The Urdu version is very easy to read. So I assume the English should be as well. Is it true that Prophet Ibrahim Islam was sent with a book? How many books of Islam? And lastly, I would like to know about Masjid Quba. So Ibrahim Islam, we don't know the book that he was given, but the Quran mentions that he was given suhuf, the suhuf of Ibrahim. He was given some material, yeah, that was sent down from Allah. So we don't know exactly what it was. Was it a book like the Quran? Or was it a smaller version? So yeah, he was given how many books of Islam? So generally, we know of messengers were given books, or they were given divine instructions. So the 4 that we know are the Torah, Musa alayhi salam was given, the Zabur that Dawud alayhi salam was given, the Injil Isa alayhi salam was given, and the Quran the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given. So we know of those. Besides that, there was also other literature that was given to prophets as well, but we're not too sure of exactly their contents. And Masjid Quba is basically a masjid which is outside of Masjid Nabawi, yeah, or on the outskirts of Medina. I think it's about 3 or 4 miles. I think it's 3 or 4 miles away from Masjid Nabawi. You can go by foot. It's a masjid that was one of the first masjids that was built after the Prophet ﷺ migrated. So when the Prophet ﷺ migrated from Mecca, he went and he first stopped in Quba, the area of Quba, and there he established a masjid. And then he went to Medina. Then he settled in Medina. I want to be knowledgeable, not a sheikh, just gain pure basic knowledge. Ahlan wa sahlan. Ahlan wa sahlan, welcome. Can I do dua in English in Nafal? Yes, you can. Can you work in a warehouse that has pet food with pork and beef in it? Yes, you can. What is the Hanafi view on tawassul by mentioning dua by the virtue of the Prophet ﷺ? So Hanafis allow. Yeah, so you can say, "Oh Allah, I ask you through the blessing of the Prophet ﷺ." You can do that. Is Mufti Faraz Adam's article made for lay people to read? It should be, and if it's not, then you'll find an easier version on probably IFG, Islamic Finance Guru. Was Ashura fast fard before Ramadan? So there's ikhtilaf about this. Some say it was, some say it wasn't. General position is that it was. Before Ramadan came, it was obligatory. Is it permissible to say that I like Prophet Yunus alayhi salam more than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I mean, in the sense, you can say that, but it would not be befitting for the iman of a follower of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, the iman of the follower of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam should be that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is more beloved to us than anything. This is how it should be. Can you say a few words on doubts stemming from Islam and its compatibility with science? The issue of Anbiya's bodies in the grave has given me doubts for some reason. Yeah, so like I said to you, if you actually Google this, you can actually find Christians actually have this phenomenon in them as well. Bodies of certain Christians in the past that haven't decayed. Buddhists as well. Buddhists have this as well. They actually found a Buddhist monk who was basically his body hadn't rotted away. So this is a phenomenon that can happen to people. The point is that this is not something unique to Islam. Yeah, so the thing that's unique to Islam is when Allah says that the shuhada's bodies are, the shuhada are not dead. What does that mean, the shuhada are not dead? It doesn't mean necessarily that every single shaheed's body, if you dig it up, you're going to find it fresh. No. Shaheed meaning that in the akhirah, it's going to be alive. Yeah. But as for the prophets, the Prophet ﷺ said the bodies of the prophets are not consumed by the earth. So we take it literally. We take that literally. Let's say, for example, someone was to go and dig up a prophet's grave and to check, and the body had decayed, let's say, for example, let's say, just argument's sake. That still doesn't mean there's probably a different interpretation that we haven't understood then. That's what it could be. So this is why Aqidah is not based upon trying to prove it through physical. The whole point of Aqidah is a belief that is something which you rely upon the source. You rely upon Allah and the Messenger. That's what Aqidah is. If you have to prove Aqidah through some physical existence, then that is not Aqidah anymore. Is haram beef or chicken physically najis? Yes. Ma'ariful is very comprehensive, so I left that, but let's support Anwar Bayan instead. Excellent. And what you could have done was Noble Quran is very good. Noble Quran is 2 volumes. Mufti Taqi Usmani, it's very concise, very easy to follow as well. And you can actually get Tafsir Uthmani translated into English as well. Tafsir Uthmani, that's also very good. Yeah, I understand the Prophet ﷺ is the best and we should consider him our best. Yeah. Are Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's books problematic? Yes. So when you say problematic, it doesn't mean that they're toxic. What it means is that the certain beliefs that he held with regards to rebelling against the Ottoman government and with regards to his understanding of certain things then that would become problematic because if you read about the history of Muhammad ibn Wahhab, he did quite a few bad things as well. And this is why that can clearly be seen in some of the things that he writes as well. But generally, I mean, his books would be fine to read generally in that sense. But I would just generally advise people, why do you have to go to a book of that particular individual? Why don't you go to a book of someone who came before him, someone who was trusted and reliable by everyone? What should you do if you accidentally recite the same surah of opposite order in the first 2 rakats of fard? It's fine. Yeah. I mean, next time don't do it, but the salat will be fine. I have a novel Quran. I read a few pages. It's very classical. I see. So are you looking for the language, some sort of modern kind of language? If you're looking for a modern language, then I would say the translation of Dr. Abdul Halim, or the translation of what's his name? Gracious Quran. That's a very easy to follow translation. It's almost like a tafsir translation merger. I have no Quran. Someone asked, why are we not allowed to hang images of animals and people in the home? Does it mean angels don't enter the home? So this is the issue with regards to images. Is a big topic. This is what are images? What kind of images are prohibited in Islam? Is there ikhtilaf between the scholars about these kind of images? Generally, those people who hold the view that 2D images are prohibited, based upon the hadith of Ibn Abbas and others, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said that those who create images will have to give life to those images because they are competing with Allah. So some of them take the hadith as literal hadith, and therefore others say that no, this hadith is in reference to those people who are making images which are meant to be worshipped. So idolatry. That's what it is. So the hadith is in regards to so keeping images in the home in that sense. It depends what position that you hold on this issue. I will read in my late 30s or in a few years. What do you think of Wahiduddin Khan Quran commentary? I haven't read it. Is Taqwiyatul Iman a copy of Kitab al-Tawheed? No, it's not. And in fact, if you want to see what you do, just read both of them. If you read both of them, you'll find they're both different. So this was a claim that was made by Maulana Ahmad Raza Khan and some of his followers. But if you actually read the two, you can go and download both of them, and you can read both of them, and you can see for yourself. If I wash my face for wudu and I stop to dry without completing the rest of the wudu, will this mistake make my wudu invalid since it's not continuous? No, the wudu would be fine according to Hanafis. If some Naqshbandi Sufis have photos of their sheikh in house that say it's permissible. Yeah, that's why I said there's ikhtilaf in this. I would avoid these kind of images. I personally would avoid this. Stay away from the ikhtilaf. I would avoid this. Ibrahim Ahmed, is downloading PDF books haram? No, it's not. Is Ahmad Raza Khan greater or Ashraf Ali Thanvi? On the Day of Judgment, we'll find out, inshallah. Hamza Web, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My son has a question. Why in Jannah do we have to be 33 years old? And if we want to, can we change it? Excellent question. That is a brilliant question. I don't know the answer, The narrations do mention that the age of people will be the age of Isa alayhi salam, which is going to be 33. And maybe there's some wisdom in Jannah. Maybe that's like a peak age, strength of the body and mind. And I don't know, maybe in Jannah that's something special. So we don't know exactly. The thing people think is, look, imagine like this. Imagine, for instance, you're living in a desert, and you live in a hut, and every single day you see desert, and maybe you see a little pool of water, and you might see some trees, and you might see in the distance maybe some mountains. You might see the sky every single day, and then nighttime comes, and then you see stars, and you see moon, and you see a camel, and you drink the milk of the camel, and then you might eat some food that someone has grown. this is your lifestyle. This is basically, this is what you're gonna use as your measure to measure what paradise is. So if you're living in that kind of lifestyle, your understanding of Jannah is going to be revolving around your experience of the world that you have in that part of the world. If you're living in, let's say, in London, in the center of London, and you're seeing all these things, and you're seeing, how food is found in the supermarkets, and how people live in 5-star hotels, and people go on these holidays, and people work, your understanding of Jannah will be a different thing, because you're basing it upon the things that you see, isn't it? So that's why when we go to Jannah, we don't even know, like, a drop in the ocean of what Jannah is going to be like. Whatever reports have been given to us, those reports have been given to us in a language that was originally said for people who were living in the desert. That's the original language for this. Yeah, and I'll give you an example. So let's say, for instance, someone says, you go back in time, and you're trying to explain to people that you can sit in one part of the world and you can speak in front of a camera, and hundreds and thousands of people can watch you around the world, and they won't understand that. So you'd have to really, really simplify it for them. So you'll say, for example, like, in the future, there's going to be an eye, and that eye will actually be able to see things and show people things on the walls. I say, whoa, or in their palms. So people are going to try to understand. That's why when we talk about Jannah and we give these examples, a very simple understanding of Jannah comes to mind. But the reality is, when we go to Jannah, inshallah, Jannah is going to be something beyond our wildest dreams. Does that make sense? If someone takes a job, completes it, but the outcome of their efforts is mediocre, are they entitled to the full wage agreed? So it all depends on the terms and conditions. So in fiqh, there's basically, when you're working for someone, there's two types of contracts that you can generally have when you're working for someone. You can have ijara khasa, ijara amma. So basically, one is where you are what we call like a freelancer, where someone gives you a particular job. All they want is the result, and they'll pay you for it. As long as they've got the result that was agreed in the contract. Like, for example, you hire someone to do your gardening, and he's also doing gardening for 10 other people. As long as he gets the gardening done in the specified time, that's permissible. And the other type is where the guy simply works for you and only you, no one else, and he works in a window of time, like a 9-to-5 job. Yeah. So this is why, as long as a particular job has been fulfilled, has been done, and the person's satisfied with it, then they deserve that. Again, it all depends upon what kind of contract it is. Does that make sense? If it's the first type of contract and the guy's not happy with the garden, then he doesn't give the money. And if it's a second type, then because he's working for the hours, he deserves the money whether he's done the job or not. Sheikh, please drink karak chai. Yeah, I've had karak chai. I'm not too fond of these karak chais. A lot of them are just powder mixed with water, so I'm not too keen on this karak chai frenzy that people have. Can we keep childhood printed pictures? I would say there would be permissibility. As long as it's kept away, I'd be saying permissibility. If a man's wife passes away, is he allowed to keep images of her? It's a good question. I spoke to some people about this. Some of them said no, because now she's no longer a mahram. And others said because she died and she was a wife to him, therefore it's considered to be permissible, because even though he's not married to her now, but because she doesn't exist anymore, that was like a frozen image of her in the past. I would say there would be some permissibility for it. I have heard the Deobandi affirm that digital pictures count as tasweer, but even the opinion that allows them tells you. I don't know which. I mean, Deobandi, see, this word Deobandi is a very loose term people use. So I don't think Deobandiyya have said this. There are some scholars amongst the scholars of Deoband who have said this, but I don't think it's unanimous of anyone who affiliates to Deoband who says this. It was actually a very good podcast I put up onto the feed, YouTube feed. Sheikh Dr. Zishan Chowdhury has made, and he's talked about this whole concept of Deobandi as well in there. It's very, very good, useful to listen to. Why wouldn't pirating PDFs be considered stealing? So the concept of stealing, so you know, when it comes to Islam and it comes to the laws of contracts can only be broken if they break the exact wording of a particular contract. If you have not come into contract with a particular individual, therefore, by you going against what they've said, it doesn't necessarily mean you're sinning. So if someone, for example, has a book and says, I don't give anyone permission to copy this book, the person on the receiving end, which is us, haven't really kind of agreed to something. We haven't shook hands and said, we promise never to copy this book. If we did say that, then by breaking that, we'd be considered sinful. So you're not simply just considered sinful because someone makes a claim and everyone has to agree to that, unless the government does that. If the government does that, then it becomes binding upon us. So that's why the government has a different status from the average private company. So yeah, that would generally be. And stealing, the definition of stealing, it has to be something which is considered to be like physical. Yeah, like if you stole their book, like you went and you picked up their book that they printed, they spent money on. But PDF isn't something which technically is considered to be in the same status. Some scholars do say that copywriting obviously should be respected, and if it's used in a way that is people are profiting from it, that's sinful. That's wrong. Yeah. He said that makes sense. Ahlan wa sahlan. Ahlan wa sahlan. Assalamu alaikum, real basic. Ahlan wa sahlan. If I make hijrah to a Muslim country, can I travel to other Muslim countries? Inshallah, why not? Salam, if I make here, try tea without water. That is the real karak chai. That's crazy. That's your crack chai. That's crack. Just milk. Oh, right. So milk with, yeah, I've tried that. In Pakistan, they call it doodh patti. Inshallah, I'm going to be there next week, inshallah. Watch that podcast. It was very good explanation. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So Dr. Zishan Chowdhury is he's actually written, I think his PhD or his master's was on the Deobandi movement. It was on that. I don't know if you can get it online, but if you can, I've heard a lot of people praise it. Mufti, can you give a loose Hanafi fiqh curriculum to study? Yes. So first of all, study fiqh al-muyassar, then, which is both parts, all of the fiqh, right? Ibadat up to Hajj, and then from nikah all the way up to inheritance. Then once you've completed that, then do Quduri, whole of Quduri, cover to cover. Then once you've completed Quduri, then study Hidayah, all the entire Hidayah. If you do these three fully cover, and you do it with a very good teacher who goes through it carefully with you, all the other Hanafi books you can read on your own. Honestly. When will you return? Inshallah, end of August. Wa alaikum assalam, Farid. Ahla wa sahlan, my brother from Kenya. Wapi. That's all I know in Swahili. Hakuna Matata. I will start Quran Arabic using your playlist videos, inshallah. Inshallah. Are scholars like Mufti Tariq Masood and Maulana Tariq Jamil scholars to take knowledge from? I assume so. I don't know them personally, but I assume Maulana Tariq Jamil has a very big madrasa, or several madrasas in Pakistan, mashallah. And Mufti Tariq Masood, I don't know him personally, but from what I've heard, and he's someone affiliated to Jamiat al-Rashid, then I would assume, yeah. Is a man's mahram to his mother-in-law? Yes. So basically, a man cannot get married to his mother-in-law. His mother-in-law, until the day of judgment, is like his mother. How about if the wife dies? Is she still? Yes. She will always be mother-in-law, mahram to him. So she can travel with him, she can stay in a room with him, she doesn't have to have hijab. But if there's fear that there's going to be fitna between them, then she has to cover up. John, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan. I'm weak. I struggle praying Salah. I find it requires discipline, motivation. How do I make Salah more important? Good question this is. So look, when it comes to life, in life, you have routines, and then routines can be broken down into regular routines, like very regular routines, almost daily routines, and you have irregular routines. Irregular routines are easier to do on time because the frequency of the routine is much less than the second type. The second type, which is regular routines, that's the thing which is hard to maintain consistency in. So, for example, like going to work every single day, you have to get up every single day. You have to make sure you leave the house at the right time. You have to make sure you get to work, exactly the right time. So that's why it's burdensome. It's very, very difficult. So what's your incentive for going to work? Your incentive is you don't want to lose your job. You want to make money, etc. So Salat is very similar. Salat is 5 times a day. This is not just once a day, it's 5 times a day. And those 5 times come every single day. So what can naturally happen to me and you is we become complacent. And we think to ourselves, you know what? Oh, it's only Salat. I'll delay. So what happens is you get into this mentality that your consistency with Salat becomes almost non-existent. You just do it whenever you feel like it. So the Salat becomes subservient to your own desire, rather than you become subservient to the requirements of Salat. This is why there's so much emphasis on establish Salat, protect your Salat, be careful with your Salat, don't miss your Salat. That's why it's very important. So how would you incentivize Salat? So incentivizing something, again, is to give it importance in your life. What I would generally say to people is, look, one of the reasons why people are lazy in their salats because they pray salat in the same place that they live. So this is a bit of a tricky one. That's why generally going to the masjid is something which kind of keeps you consistent, punctual, because in the masjid they have one time for salat and you have to get yourself there. So you have this kind of like almost, you can say, like a burden of responsibility, accountability. You got to go to salat. Whereas if you pray at home, what you'll find is you're either going to pray in your living room, or you're going to pray in your bedroom, or something like that. And that's why scholars generally in the past used to encourage people to have a separate room where they pray salat. So you don't have to have a separate room just for salat, like a masjid in your house, but have a room where you just pray salat. And one of the benefits of this I found is that your mind associates salat to that particular room. So you can cut yourself off from your other bad habits you have in your house. Yeah, so lazing around and playing games and this and that, having that. So try it yourselves. Someone actually asked me this question a while back, that they're students of knowledge, or not like ilmi knowledge, but they're studying university, and they find that they're studying all day and then they become lazy in their salats. And one of the reasons was that they were praying salat in the same room that they were studying in. And that's what, so I said, why don't you go and pray in a different room or go to the masjid? Ideally, masjid, you can't go to the masjid, pray in a different room. And that when you pray in a different room, what happens is your mind associates salat to that particular room. So you kind of easily break off from that bubble routine that you're in, and then you can go and pray your salat. That's generally what I would say. Why can't we just read Hidayah since it gives dalil? So, see, it's like someone says, why can't I just jump onto Bukhari, for example? Or why do I just need to study Mishkat? Or why do I need to study Riyadh al-Salihin before that, or some other books? The thing is, you can like jump onto the Quran and study the Quran directly, right? As someone who is studying in a madrasa. But the thing with that is you don't have tadarruj. So in knowledge, when you study knowledge, it has to be gradual, like you're stepping. When you go directly into hidayah, what happens is, because you're not familiar with the masala, this is one you. Let's say, for example, in the chapter of wudu, let's say there's 20 masail in chapter of wudu in Quduri. Now, when you go into hidayah, you're not familiar with 20. You're just familiar with one, the first one. And when you cover that, you're familiar with number 2. The problem with this is you're going into hidayah blind of the whole overarching concepts in the chapter of wudu. But if you studied Quduri first, or you studied Fiqh al-Muyassar first, what happens? First of all, Fiqh al-Muyassar gives you an overview of the masail. Then Quduri shows you why Imam Quduri selected these masail. And then hidayah, now you're ready for hidayah because you've got all this background knowledge now about this chapter of wudu. And now all you're going to be asking now is, but why did he say that for? What's the dispute between the scholars in this masala? Yeah, so it's all about, progressive. Where did you graduate in Pakistan? Karachi. Will you ever come to London? Inshallah, why not? We are learning Allah Jazakallah khair. Hakuna Matata means there's no problem. Wapi means where. That's it, bro. And teach me some more Swahili. So we can read Lubab, Bahr Raik, Wiqaya, Nuqaya, Anwar, or are you saying after? Yeah, so once you study these, that's what I'm saying. If you study these 3 levels of books very, very well with the teacher, when you get to hidayah, the teacher will simply say to you, right, the same masala, I want you to read it in Fathul Qadir, I want you to read it in Bahr Raik, I want you to read it in Wiqaya. And then that makes hidayah more enjoyable now, because in hidayah, you don't have to think about the masala anymore, because you already learned that. What you need to think about now is how the different books now tackle that masala. Clothing has rules and regulations to adhere to, which leads to the wearer to wear what they like. However, we see ulama refer to wearing the clothing of the pious and the ulama of that country. If the clothing is alien to that country, would it be best to Islamize that country's clothing? Good question. This is a good question. So what I would say before we understand this question, like there was no uniform the Sahaba wore. We know that for a fact. There was no uniform at all. They wore the same clothes that they wore before they became Muslim. The wardrobe was exactly the same. Yeah, they wore the same attire. Yeah, some of the Sahaba did wear certain types of clothing and certain things which the Prophet ﷺ, he prohibited. He said, you're not going to wear these because these are not appropriate for a Muslim. Like dragging your clothes on the ground, or men wearing silk, stuff like that. So as time went by, so when the Muslims went to Persia, we have no record of the Persians starting to wear Arab clothes. They were wearing their own clothes. And that's why we see today, for example, Malaysians have their own style of cultural clothes. India subcontinent have their own. In Africa, they have their own. You have this variety because there was never a uniform people used to wear. So as time used to go, scholars in a society actually used to wear clothing where general public were told not to wear clothing like them. And this is a very good wisdom, this is. That general public should not wear clothes like the scholars, because imagine there's an average guy who's dressed up as a scholar. People will listen to him like a scholar. Like you see on social media nowadays, where just someone's got a beard, someone wears all the attire and just like kind of presents themselves like a scholar, got some books in the background, like me. And it makes people automatically associate them with ilm. Like if I was to wear a big white coat with a stethoscope around my neck and with some glasses on, people would straight away assume whatever medical advice I give, it's sound. So this is why there were lots of places where people were not allowed to wear clothing like scholars. Scholars had to wear clothing to be distinct from the people, so people knew they were scholars. This was generally in Muslim dominant communities. As Muslims spread into other lands, right? So now you have this new society, which is a global village, where people are traveling from one part of the world to a totally different culture, where clothing is totally different, the weather is different, and customs are different. So now what happens over here now? This is the question. So yes, people can wear the clothing of the locals as long as they don't break any of the rules of Islam. And yes, the scholars should generally, when they are delivering talks or when they are giving, they should present themselves in a way which people can tell they're scholars, whether it's to do with the clothing that they wear or whether it's to do with the way they present themselves, that as well. Yeah, definitely. So should people now Islamize? I would generally say that there needs to be like a certain way that people dress to make themselves look as though they are people of knowledge. Now that does not mean it has to be in a jubba or an imam on the head, but if that's something nowadays many people associate, if that makes sense. Is there anything that can be stipulated in Islam in place of alimony for women getting divorced who are incapable of supporting themselves due to being a stay-at-home wife, mother for years? Yeah, this is a very good question. This is so generally when it comes to, for example, prenuptials, like they say, when a man and woman are going to get married. So let's say, for example, this is a man, this is a woman. They get married now, and they live together for 30, 40 years of their life. Generally, the woman is going to be bringing up the children. And we're talking about most of the society of the world, where the woman is bringing up the children, and the man is going to go out and he's going to earn for the family. So, right, she's at home, he's out working, bringing the food home, and that's how generally they live. Now, if, for example, like the husband was to die, then this woman gets inheritance from whatever wealth he had, 1/8 of that wealth, or 1/4 if there's children or no children. And so that's financially, she's kind of sorted to a degree. But what if they get divorced? So in divorce situation, the idea is that the woman is meant to have as a backup her mahar. Her mahar is meant to be like a backup for her. And she's meant to be allowed to stay in the home of the husband, and he provides everything until the period of idda expires. Once that period expires, by that time, there's going to be interest in other men regarding her, and she'll be able to get married to someone else or something of that nature. However, the problem with this now, this whole model has now been dismantled, especially in the West, where you have a nuclear family now. People are no longer relying on their relatives. In the past, if a woman broke off from a marriage, she'd go back to her tribe, her community, and they would take care of her. But now what's happening is a nuclear family, which is basically a father, mother, and a few children, and then they are simply just isolating themselves from everyone else. They don't need their relatives anymore. They go and move hundreds and hundreds of miles somewhere else. And this is where problems arise now, because now if they break up, what's going to happen is she's all alone, single mother. This whole concept of a single mother and a concept is become widespread now. And now what does she do? So she's going to have to work. She's going to have to earn for herself. So now the questions come, how do we kind of tackle this now? Do we say to the woman, right, nowadays women should ask for higher mahars so that if they get divorced, there's a backup plan? Or is it that women should maybe have a side earning or something of that nature? I have spoken to some scholars about this issue, but there's nothing that you can generally, like in the West, in this country, the rule is if you're married to a woman and there's just a normal divorce, then she deserves half of whatever the husband assets. Yeah, because her living with him was the reason why he earned that money. So that's the kind of situation. I don't think there is anything. I mean, some scholars are trying to come up with some sort of like an agreement or something in contract of nikahs, but I don't think anything has really been finalized for that. If the clothing is alien to that country, okay, we did that one. Does YouTube take a big cut from super chats? They take, I think it's about, from everything, YouTube generally takes 20 to 25%. Yeah, 20 to 25% they take from that. Mufti, what are the definitions of itmi'nan in Salat? I've seen a Deobandi fatwa detail it as 1 second. I spent some time. Yeah, so tama'nina or itmi'nan, Abu Hanifa and Imam Muhammad say is considered to be wajib. According to the later Hanafis, they say it's the duration of one subhanallah. So the duration of you saying one subhanallah. So however long it takes for you to say one subhanallah, basically your body has to come to a standstill for the duration of one subhanallah. Hypothetical scenario, can a man perform ghusl of his deceased wife? Not according to the Hanafi school. If there is only him and his mother-in-law present to do it. The mother-in-law can do it, but he can't do it. Otherwise, if there's no one, then the mother-in-law can simply give tayammum, do tayammum for her. When was your first Jummah bayan at Birmingham Jami Masjid, and how did you get called up? My first ever Jummah bayan, when was it? I think it was in 2003, I think. 2003. 2002, 2003. That was when I was still studying. So I remember I came back one year in my holidays, and the Imam just asked me, "Would you like to do Jummah?" I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I was already practicing doing talks anyway. Yes, I was quite comfortable giving talks. Obviously not as comfortable as I am now because I've got many years of experience. But I remember that talk I gave, I spent 2 weeks solid preparing for it. Sheikh, do you have any kids? No, I don't. Muslims QnA, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, ahla wa sahlan, ahla wa sahlan. What part of the speech they give before Jummah Salat is considered the actual khutbah? So it's actually the one where the Imam sits in between them. That's the one. Yeah. Usually it's in places they have it in Arabic, usually, but not all the time. Who wins in a fight? Do you want these umbrellas? It depends what kind of fight is. Is it true that wailing over a person's death is haram? Yes, if it's wailing in the sense that a person is doing it in such a way to show off in front of others. But if it's something uncontrollable that a person can't help, then it's not considered sinful. In the past, they actually used to have professional wailers. So you'd pay them, they would come in and they would cry to create an atmosphere in the funeral. Islam is not a cosplay. I see some Sufi Turuk do things in there. What are your thoughts on Muhammad Abdu being part of Masonic lodges? I have no idea. Can you give simple book on Tawheed, etc. to read? Can you say a few words on keeping firm and not on the defensive whenever we get doubts? So look, the general thing is, it seems as though you suffer from waswasa. That's what I would say from your kind of question that you ask. What I would say is, look, you need to have physical contact with a scholar. That is the most important thing. Just reading a book is not going to remove your doubts. You have to have physical contact. That's why I remember once I told you about Lighthouse, Sapiens Institute. Speak with them honestly. It's going to help a lot. People don't take this thing seriously, but you have to realize communicating with another human voice, hearing someone else's voice, and them hearing your voice, it has an effect. And sitting with them, seeing them physically has an effect. What do you think of the hadra? It's fine. At what age does a girl become baligh if they have not yet had menses? So according to the Hanafis, the age of 15 lunar years. I wanted a book which would be of the same caliber as MIAW's book in size and in a blunt way. So Aqidah Tahawiyya would be a book. Aqidah Wasitiyya, Ibn Taymiyyah is a very easy to read book. You could read. What else could you read? You want something like very basic, isn't it? I mean, I did mention about going through the Quran as well. When you did Jummah, Khutbah, Salah, was you shaking? I think, yeah, Yeah. When I was giving the Jummah talk, I was sitting down on the minbar. But yeah, in Salah, I was shaking. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa sahlan. Man, what are the steps of marrying a non-Muslim sister? What are the steps? So don't marry a non-Muslim sister. Marry a Muslim sister. It's always better to marry a Muslim sister. But some of the scholars do allow marrying a Christian and Jewish woman as long as they are living in a Muslim country. I think that is the best opinion. Safeguards a person's iman, it safeguards their children's iman as well. I am a man who has no sexual attraction for women, and any sexual attraction I do have is towards men. Should I stay single and childless all my life? Then you control your desire. Yeah, you control your desire. So it's like, for example, a person has desire to fornicate, or to have intimacy with an animal, or to drink wine. A person has a desire. As a Muslim, you control it. It's simple as that. Does burping loudly break the wudu? So burping loudly, no, it doesn't. My problem is I sweat a lot. When I'm nervous, when I start talking, I'm going to be sweating. Yeah, I can imagine. I think at Islamic Dawah Academy in Leicester, they force you to give talks monthly. MP, wa alaikum assalam, ahlan wa sahlan, welcome, long time. Ibrahim, I had meant to ask, does burping loudly break the Salah? No, it doesn't. Is it true you can only sit for giving Jummah talk in Arabic, but if you give talk in any other language, it's disliked to sit? I don't know. I never heard that. H. Siddiq, alaikum salam. If a traveler doesn't know the duration of his stay, does he pray qasr for the first 15 days? So if he doesn't know, no, then he does qasr, non-stop qasr. He only prays the full salat when he 100% knows that he's going to stay in a location for 15 days or more. Why does qahqaha breaks salah as well? So qahqaha, because there's a hadith about it. So because there's a specific hadith that's narrated, and that's why. So if there was a hadith about burping, then we would have taken that as well, but there isn't. If I legally change my name, will I be called by my new name on Judgment Day, or will it? I don't know. We'll find out, my brother. What's qahqaha is loud laughter. Loud laughter. MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair, Ibrahim, for your kind donation. May Allah bless you. May Allah put barakah in your time and your effort. Just seen the notification come up. Jazakallah khair. You know, MashaAllah, you guys have supported my channel all the way. Alhamdulillah, all these years. Some of you guys are new. Some of you guys have been there for many years. MashaAllah, I appreciate it a lot, honestly. It means a lot to me. And inshallah, this channel is going to grow stronger and stronger, inshallah. And hopefully it's going to inspire people to do good, inshallah. I need loads of du'as, guys, for this channel, yeah? So more than donations, I need du'as. Jazakallah khair. As I heard, it's disliked to sit if talks in any other language than Arabic. I haven't come across that in any of the books. I don't know what the reference for that is. The new masjid on Fox Hollies Road, Masjid Sulaiman bin Dawood, is going to have the main hall completed by October. Check it out. I was actually playing badminton in Fox Hollies sports center on Tuesday. Yeah, I was actually playing there on Tuesday, badminton in the evening. Yeah, I've heard about that masjid. I was actually going to go and cycle for that masjid as well, to collect for that masjid, because I think they've got a charity ride on the 22nd, or I don't know what date. But unfortunately, I'm going to be in Pakistan, so I won't be able to. Given my situation, what do you recommend that I tell people who ask why I'm not married? So the thing in Islam is basically, if a person has a desire for something which is haram, you don't publicize that desire unless you're obviously asking a question, which you did, which is fine. But you wouldn't go around. You would say to people, "Look, it's just I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for it." That would be fine. There were many people, scholars of the past, who didn't get married. Many scholars who didn't get married. So yeah, make dua to Allah as well. What are your thoughts on women going to the masjid for talks when on menses? So they're not allowed to sit in the official prayer area. So they can sit in a separate room, but not in the prayer area. 1 million subscribers, yeah, inshallah. Inshallah, bro, your comment deserves to go up. What daily habits do you have to try daily keep optimistic life outlook? So when it comes to daily routines or daily habits, what I would suggest is, don't try to overwhelm yourself with too much. Some people try and do too many things. They do too many azkar, and there are too many wird and these kind of things, which is overwhelming for a lot of people. So the thing that you do is basically try to do, like the Prophet ﷺ said, do a little but be consistent. Even if you just read 2 rakats every single day, and you read 1 page of Quran every single day, something like that, just do that. And then slowly, after many months, if you feel as though you can add something else to it, add something else to it. So work So work slowly, I would say. Yeah, build up your until you reach your limit. That's how you're going to develop yourself spiritually. If you, however, listen to this talk and they say do this, and you listen to this talk and you end up like have a whole list of things you want to do, you're going to become like an army boot camp. Yeah, and you're going to find it very hard, and you're just going to break yourself. And the Prophet he even said this to the Sahaba, that no one makes the religion difficult upon themselves except that will overpower them. In other words, they'll break down. And sometimes you see this. I've seen this with so many people. They've just started. They're really hyped up. They start like 10 things they want to do. Read this much surahs every day, and read this much out. Spend this much time in doing this and dhikr and this and that. And they can do it for the first few weeks, but then later on they find it too hard and they just fizzle away. So you want consistency. Consistency is very important. Is it makruh tanzih for women to go to the masjid? Yes. If there's a need for it, then it's fine. Yeah, as in it's difficult for them to be able to get in contact with other like-minded sisters who can support each other, or Islamic talks, then it's fine. What daily habits do you have to keep optimistic outlook? Yeah, so I would say daily habits, pray your 5 times salat every single day. Help every day, try to help someone who is less fortunate than you. That way what happens is you become more grateful of what Allah's given you. In terms of the waswasa as well, it's hard to contact a scholar since you don't want to burden them with, oh yeah, that's true, and keep asking them, inshallah, I'll book the lighthouse. Yeah, honestly, you are absolutely right. There's a lot of people out there. I mean, I wish there was other people out there that would do live streams like this on a weekly basis and help answer people's questions as their best ability. And I can't answer everyone's questions. I don't know the answer to every question. I tell you that straight. If I know someone knows the answer better than me, I tell you, go and read it, ask them. But the thing is, I know it's a lot of people do find it very hard. Who are they going to ask? They feel very, some people are introverts and they find it very hard to communicate with other people, speak to them. Maybe they find it easier to typing on the screen. And there are naturally going to be people out there. So I do kind of feel for you guys out there who find it difficult. Is it correct that you can pass someone praying after 3 prayer spaces? Yes. Do you think it's valid to follow 18 degrees Fajr time? Yes. I feel special in my comments. Ahlan wa sahlan. Is it permissible for one's clothes to feature silhouettes of animals? Yes, silhouettes are fine, as long as the details are not there. Mufti, what would be the ruling on TV shows, etc., that contains un-Islamic elements like shirk, fisk, awra? Best to avoid them, I would say. If you don't need to watch them, then avoid them. But if it's something which is difficult to avoid, then those kind of parts, turn away, fast forward them, those kind of things. The thing is, look, what can tend to happen is watching these continuously can slowly start to erode your iman, erodes the kind of things that you uphold in your heart as faith, the strength of your iman, the ghira that you have in your heart. These kind of things erode away slowly. The silhouette animal on clothing, okay, yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to repeat. Yeah, that's fine, inshallah. No problem, my brother Ibrahim. Okay, let's check some of the questions. Can someone just wear underwear under a thobe? Yeah, you can. But everyone does that. Salam. Yes, especially when it's very hot. As long as people can't see, obviously, your thobe isn't translucent and everyone can see underneath. Wa alaikum assalam. If one has entered the masjid for Fajr Salah and the Jama'ah has started and he hasn't prayed 2 rakats of Sunnah, can he pray them while the Jama'at is happening? Yes. If he doesn't pray the 2 rakats Sunnah before during Jama'at, should he make them up after sunrise? Yes. Wa alaikum assalam. So number 1, yes, so long as he knows he can catch up the Imam. Number 2 is he makes them up after Sunrise. I once saw an Islamic YouTube video that featured cartoons of people without faces, but they had two of the letter Ain where the eyes. Interesting. Ain means in Arabic means eyes, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, I assume it would be. For educational purposes, there's a lot of flexibility. So now, what's the ruling for our sister being on social media with makeup and sometimes tight clothing? I would like to advise them, but don't think. Yeah, it's the things here. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is this is a multifaceted problem we have in our society, which is Muslims, majority of us, we don't know the principles of Islam very well. So what tends to happen is wherever the culture is moving. So imagine the culture is like a big slug, and the slug is moving, and whichever direction it moves in, everything underneath the slug just goes with it. And sadly, what's happening, many Muslims, they're just seeing the culture of the West shifting towards this direction or that direction, and they just assume to themselves that it's okay to do it like this. So they begin to stretch the boundaries of Islam, right? And that's where the problem arises. That's the benefit of living in a Muslim country, generally, a Muslim country which has like general Muslim culture and morals and ethics embedded in that culture, is that the culture that's the slug of that society is always going to be sort of within the boundaries of the Sharia, generally. And that's why even if a person doesn't know the rules of Islam very well, at least the way the clothes they're going to wear and the way that they speak and the way they present themselves in public is going to be more in line with Islam. So culture plays a very important role. You have to remember that. So in this society, what slowly is happening now is you have, for example, like guys, will keep a beard and maybe we'll go to the gym with very tight clothes and just say, well, my aura's covered. But and they're putting their pictures up and things like that. And they think because other people are doing it and it's not per se against Islam, it's kind of, unfortunately, it's having a knock-on effect on the way people are, presenting themselves. And then it also has a knock-on effect on a person's ego as well. And then or other spiritual ailments follow on. And the same with, unfortunately, there's many sisters out there, they'll be wearing tight clothing and say, well, I'm covered up, aren't I? But the point is that the whole point of the hijab is that the tightness is also non-visible. And it's not translucent, and then the makeup is you're not supposed to adorn yourself, in front of others in that fashion. So this is why there are many problems, unfortunately, that we have in society. I would say maybe try to speak to her. I don't know, real basic. If you're a man or a woman, if you're a man, then I would avoid it. Try to get another woman to contact her, speak to her, because women can speak to each other better. How do you calculate prayer times on the plane? I don't know. I mean, all I do is look at the window, and then I sometimes will just try to kind of ask maybe the stewards or the air hostesses about prayer times, and sometimes they know these things. You're in your pants. Is it halal for men to have jaguar alec into themselves? Jaguar alec? What's that? Have you eaten in Leicester in Emery steak place? Yeah, I've eaten there. MashaAllah, very nice. Is it halal for men to have jaguar applied into the skin? Jaguar? What's a jaguar? Is facial fillers and Botox permissible for Muslim for aesthetic purposes, because it is common for Muslims to be performing this on other? So if it's in such a way that it's not extremely visible, then, and it's not going to be deliberately done to attract other people or to show off, then there's permissibility, I would say. So long as the ingredients are not haram, obviously. And generally, I mean, if Muslims can avoid these kind of things, then it's fine. It's good to avoid these things. The thing with a lot of these fillers is people don't know the side effects, the long-term side effects of these. I'm going to Morocco and I kind of want to try snail. Can I ask a Maliki scholar over there? If he gives you permission, then you can follow it. Also, can I combine prayers on the day of travel since it's hard? Pray possibly. Yeah. Are you going by Emirates? No. I'm going by Saudi Airlines. Alaikum assalam. HY Tube. Is it permitted to visit a pyramid? Yes. Emirates give salat times. Yeah, the thing about Saudi, they have a salat room. They actually have a salat room on the plane. Alaikum assalam, Ahmad. Ryan A. Is it permissible for men to have calligraphy with henna written on their arms? It wouldn't be impermissible. It wouldn't be impermissible. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is it a trend men have? Can you eat in a place where alcohol is served? Yes. As long as you're not eating on a table on which your friends are drinking alcohol, then no. What is the ruling on following the law of the land? Just follow it. You should follow it, as long as it's not telling you to do something against Islam. Ittihad Emirates, they both give salat times, so you can just follow the salat times of the country you're over. Taiba, alaikum salam. If I sell a product to two people, can I mandate how much share each person gets? E.g., I will only sell my car to both Ahmed and Bilal only if Ahmed gets 75% of the ownership of the car. No, you can't do that. So basically, you can't stipulate to anyone else anything to do with the item besides selling it to them. Yeah. So if they want to buy the 75% and the other guy wants to buy 25%, that's up to them. But you can't stipulate it in a contract. It'll be considered to be a defective contract. I prayed on Emirates. It was very good. I just did wudu and asked the hostess to pray, and she took me to the back. Oh, interesting. Recently, Muhammad Hijab said that one of his ancestors was a Sufi master. Does that mean that someone else from that lineage will get wala? I don't know. Allah knows best. Drive on tawakkul and Bismillah insurance. Isn't it sinful to wear abaya that has Arabic letters embroidered on it? I've never come across that ruling. As long as there's no ayats of the Quran and things like that. Is Emra HMC or HMC a thing that isn't? I have no idea. I asked them, are their food halal? They said to me yes. Okay. I trusted them. Under which circumstances is a person exempt from washing the face during wudu? So if they have an injury on their face or some sort of illness where they're unable to put water onto their face. Okay, Curious Cat. Let's check out Curious Cat. I have many qada, salats and fasts. I did not keep these in my early teens. However, I do not know when I should calculate this number. What would it be? The age of puberty? I cannot remember how old I was when I became baligh, or if I ejaculated before age of Islamic puberty, 15 years, 4 months, due to masturbation. Would my qada, fast, salat be calculated from the first ejaculation? Yes. Okay, Salam. If I have pre-seminal fluid on my clothing and I pray salah, is it accepted? Number 2, I am often unsure if I have pre-seminal fluid on my clothes, etc. Does this necessitate redoing wudu, even if there is a small amount on my underwear? Number 3, also, if I remove my underwear and praying salah, if there was pre-seminal fluid on my underwear, but this means the pre-seminal fluid goes onto my trousers, what does? Okay, so what's salah? Number 1. So if I have pre-seminal fluid on my clothing and I pray my salah accepted, yes, so long as the amount is not more than a 2p coin. Number 2, I'm often unsure if I have pre-seminal fluid on my clothing, etc. Does this say no? Number 3, also I remove my underwear when praying salah if there was pre-seminal fluid on my underwear, but this means okay, my trousers would. What does one do in this situation? Number 3, pray and ignore the thoughts. Okay. Yeah, Nuruddin Rashid clarified this for me. He said that as long as they look outwardly Muslim and say the food's halal, you trust them. Which Darul Uloom Pakistan did you graduate from? I graduated from Jamia Uloom Al-Islamiyya, Banuri Town. Sangal de alaikum assalam. Ahla wa sahlan. Ahla wa sahlan. My bro Z. Are you on holidays? Yes, I'm on holidays. But I'm actually going to be officially holidays, inshallah, next week. I'll be going to Pakistan, inshallah. Are you looking forward to Ramadan when iftar will be at 6 p.m.? Of course I am. Aren't you looking forward to it? Where are you getting all these questions from? So this is from Curious Cat. Iftar at 6, Tarawih is going to be early. 6 p.m. is very early. 10 p.m. ones felt like proper fasts. I know, man, the good old fasts. Okay, there is a hadith that states if you hear a dog barking at night to seek refuge in Allah, is this applicable to all times, or was it applicable to the time of the Prophet ﷺ? So scholars have differed on this. Yeah, so some said was for all times, and others said it was certain types of dogs or situations. Is it allowed to leave a dog feces on a road or in nature and there's a human stepping in it? Yes, you can. You can leave it, but obviously it wouldn't be appropriate on the streets. Okay, Salam Sheikh. I studied Ma'alimiya course from the ages of 11 to 20 and honestly do not feel like an alim. I feel like a fraud every time I am congratulated or asked questions, as I did not value my knowledge when I was younger, nor do I feel like I know anything. I am from Manchester and want to study my books again at another institute. Am I eligible at Sufa Online? Wassalam. Yes, inshallah. Yes, inshallah. The online intakes starts in December. November, December. Okay, answered all the questions, mashallah. Okay, so I remember when we used to have, when I was in college, we used to have in Ramadan was, iftar was at 4 o'clock, the winter 4, and sometimes I used to break my fast on the bus going home from college. Those are the good days. Sometimes whatever food I had, I just put it in my mouth. Sometimes just a bottle of water, maybe like a chocolate or something. Just break my fast there. How much profit is permissible to make from a quality product? Whatever amount you want. Yeah, there's no limit on what profit you can have, as long as the item is not something which people need and you're selling at extortion rates. So if it's something that people need, like milk, bread, rice, basic amenity, basic sort of foodstuffs. Can a person delay Hajj if they feel they will struggle due to excessive heat? Possibly, yeah. They really strongly feel they can do the next year. But the thing I would say is, look, trust in Allah, do tawakkul on Allah. You might think it's hot, and then you find out that, you know what, it's easy to do. Did you get iftar from Pakistan? Yes. Is it permissible to eat a sandwich which contains white wine vinegar? Yes. White wine vinegar is allowed. All vinegars are allowed. I didn't think everything experienced in early iftars. Yeah, I think because before many of you guys were born, or when you were kids. This was like in the late 90s. The late 90s. Is it allowed to create a website for a company that sells underwear and in the advertisement? Yeah, as long as you're making the website, that's fine. As long as you're not the one who is promoting the images themselves. Earliest iftar in the UK are during December at 3:45 p.m. Yeah, I mean, for Birmingham, it's actually a bit later than that. Yeah, for Birmingham, it's about about 354, 356. So you're probably down south somewhere. Which books are good to do mutala with for hidayah? So for hidayah, watch my hidayah videos and join my Wednesday lessons. Otherwise, I would say it depends what your level of reading is. Are you good at reading Arabic? Have you done usul very well? If you've done usul and you're good at reading Arabic, Fath al-Qadir is very good. If you're not, then something like Binaya is probably your best bet on Binaya. How do you do the finger in tashahhud? I learned to raise it at the beginning of the shahadatain and lower it after the ta'lim al-haq states. So according to Hanafis, basically, I've made a video on this. You say ashhadu an la, so you raise your finger when you say la. La ilaha illallah. You put it down when you say illa. Okay, so your hand is like this. So la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Yeah, and that's, I mentioned the various positions the Hanafis have mentioned as well. There's a video I've made of tashahhud. Let me see if I can find it. Raising of the finger. This is the video. What do you think of Ibn Arabi? There's many Ibn Arabis. Which one? Which Ibn Arabi are you talking about? If you nearly forget to sit for first tashahhud in fourth rakat and quickly get back down, how much standing? So it'd be fine because it's not really a long delay. It wouldn't be a long delay. You haven't really kind of delayed anything that much. So, Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad Hassan. I have been told I am from a deviant sect because I am a Hanafi from deviant background. People have told me I am Pankufar and need to be Salafi. Is this true? I don't know what you believe in, my brother, but I would say no. If it's simply just because you affiliate with the Deobandi movement, then no, you're fine, inshallah. You don't have to change anything. Are you a Salafi? No, I'm not. I heard the finger is meant to signify the oneness of Allah. Some Hanafi opinions raise it on la, lower on illa, which wouldn't make sense. Okay, Muhyiddin ibn Arabi. Okay, Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, the philosopher, yeah? Yeah, it's fine. Fine, according to majority of scholars, he was upright scholar. Don't Muhammad, you on? Oh, you have the thoughts on Fazali Amal. I haven't read it, but is there anything bad in it? No. Fazali Amal is a very good book. What can be done to bring the Ubandis and Brelvis closer together in the community? Some of the elders hate each other. Yeah, unfortunately, on both sides, there's individuals that are causing a lot of problem. Definitely. And it's just a sad state of affairs. I mean, this issue 200 years ago didn't even exist. But all of a sudden now it's just popped up, and people have been carrying the baggage from Indian subcontinent to all different countries and just carrying on this. If you want anything, if you want, like, learn from unfortunately, it's not a nice thing to say, but learn from the West. If you want there to be unity between two communities, you have to start to have open talks. You need to publicly sit together. You need to talk about the things that bring you together. And those things that people differ about, those can be discussed separately in private. I am scared. And the problem is sometimes when a Deobandi sits with a Brelvi and takes pictures, people will start attacking. And if a Brelvi sits with a Deobandi, the Brelvi community will attack him. I am scared. I've been told I need to follow the Quran, not just Abu Hanifa. Yeah, of course, Imam Hanifa did follow the Quran and Sunnah. So you're actually following someone who understood the Quran and Sunnah better than most people in this ummah. Who do you think is the muhaddith of our time? I don't know. Have you met Sheikh Juday? No, I haven't. Do you have any talks planned so far for the coming academic year? Me, I have, yeah. In October, inshallah, I'm going to be doing an intensive course on Imam Ghazali's section of Imam Ghazali's book, Bidayat al-Hidayah. It's about sins and things like that. How do we explain wazifas with certain dhikrs and certain peppers, etc., being shirk or not? Certain peppers, they really feel a shirk, but I guess I'm not too sure what you're talking about. Is home insurance permissible for someone who has a freehold property? How is it different from something like boiler cover? So generally, home insurance, if there is a very strong chance, or like certain homes, you have to take home insurance. If there is a very strong chance of a fire breaking out and you're not being able to pay for coverage, paying for everything and then paying for damage, then you can take it out. The point is, insurance is not allowed. In principle, it's not allowed because it's based upon putting your money at risk. You don't know if you're going to get anything back or not. Whereas if there is a very good chance of there's something happening and you're not being able to pay for the cost, like your house got burnt, you would have no house, you'd end up with thousands and thousands of pounds gone. Then in that case, it would be permissible. Yeah. And contents cover, like if it's for something like a boiler, which is difficult to fix, and the insurance is going to give you peace of mind, then I would say it'd be permissible to take that. Shainuddin, Italy is probably the Muhaddam time. What are your thoughts on this? Like, LGBT, I was going to say, have you written this properly? Do you think it's time to migrate to Muslim country? What are your thoughts? So 2 questions you've got. So obviously, LGBT movement is something against the teachings of Islam. Do you think it's time to migrate to Muslim country? No. Mufti Abdurrahman Ghera mentioned he did a wazifa where he waved a pepper around his sick son, burnt it, and if the pepper smoked there. So this would not come under anything Islamic, because for it to be Islamic, it has to come under something that Allah and the Prophet ﷺ permitted. This is just like medicine. So if a doctor finds that he does a particular thing and it cures a patient, that's fine. It comes under something which is known as the mujarrabat. A lot of Deobandi and Belvi issues have divided extended families, unfortunately sad. Is black labor allowed working in a job where you don't pay taxes? If not, would some circumstances possibly, yeah, it'd possibly be allowed. Anyway, guys, I'm going to finish it there. I just realized the time. So Jazakallah khair, guys. Okay, walaikum assalam. What is a Salafi and why do they say I am upon bid'ah for following the Ubandi Hanafi practice? I don't know, my brother. Maybe you need to ask them. I pray 5 times a day and I try to be the best Muslim possible. It's weird. I need to know, and do I have become a Salafi to go Jannah? Are you Salafi? Okay, I think you've asked that in the group. What are your thoughts on Saudis wasting millions? I don't know. Allah knows best. MashaAllah, you remind me of Mullah Omar. Allahu Akbar. Jazakallah khair for all of your help. You're welcome. Ibrahim, Jazakallah khair. Alright, guys, take care, inshallah. And I will see you guys, inshallah, in Pakistan. Inshallah. Next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I make dua, my journey goes well.